evening. It is Friday, November 10th, and this is MMA On Air right here on DallasOnAir.com. I am Charlie Van. Joining me always, my engineer, my producer, Austin Harris. Austin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Charlie. Happy Friday. Here we are again, MMA On Air.
I'm excited because we're coming right after one of probably the best UFC cards ever. Definitely one of the best cards of the year, UFC 217. But I'm also excited because here shortly, joining us in studio, Ramiz. We've had him here before. He's got,
yes, sir.
He's looking for win number 5.
5 in a row.
5 in a row. LFA 28, Dallas, Texas, Bomb Factory, December 8th. So definitely get your tickets because that is a stack card. But he will be joining us here shortly.
It's coming up quick, too.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks.
Just a few weeks away.
One thing I've noticed about LFA sometimes is they will kind of take a little bit when they release. It's like you're like, who's it going to be? Who's going to be the main event? Who's going to be the whole card? And once they release it, it's always a bang. They always have stack cards everywhere, and they do these things nationally, but it's always a treat when they decide to make a stop here in Dallas. I think this is their third one of the year, so that's awesome. They kicked the whole promotion off in Dallas back last January, so it's almost a year old. Doesn't feel like it's been that long. Or, that it's been a year that this promotion's been around for. But they've put on nothing but great fights. Of course, they've produced huge stars. I mean, that Sean O'Malley, who went on Dana White's Contender Series and is now assigned in the UFC, very flashy bantamweight fighter. We're about to see him here soon make his UFC debut. And of course, some guys, Ramiz's teammate. And speaking of Ramiz, he is right here in the studio. We want to welcome Ramiz as we get him set up here tonight. And so while we're on the discussion of LFA 28, which we're very pumped.
Stoked for that.
I'm just so glad. And we'll get Ramiz set up here. And Ramiz, we want to thank you, man. Thank you for joining us again in studio.
Pleasure, man.
And we were just talking about this such great card that was officially announced by LFA. They kind of keep their cards under wraps for a little bit, but how long before you knew about the whole card?
I want to say about two and a half weeks ago. I knew about the fight. The only problem is I never want to officially announce anything until I sign a contract. So that was the biggest thing for me. And
is that a lot, too? Because I know in the past you've had some opponents who unfortunately had injuries and had to back out. You didn't want to get a lot of people's hopes up or just...
Not until I saw the official contract. But the opponent that I am facing, I feel extremely confident. He's going to show up, and he wants to show up. He's the one that asked for the fight, so I can't wait.
And you're taking on, I believe it's him, Chad Box.
Yes, sir.
And I looked him up, and I know he's undefeated as well. Yeah. He's 3-0. You're 4-0. So this is a very good storyline right here. Absolutely. The two undefeated welterweights. But what do you know about his style?
He has kind of a brawling style. He's a little bit of a brawler. He has some power in his hands and stuff like that. He's still a very big threat, and that's how I'm taking him until the referee pulls me off of him. But that's about what I saw for the most part. He likes to brawl a lot. He likes to get into like slugfests and wars. And I don't mind. I'll be happy to oblige him a little bit.
I know his last fight, it was in April at XKO, so he's had not a long layoff, but a little bit of time. You've been more of the active fighter. You fought in January. You also fought in June. You fought in August.
We were actually, me and him, we were actually supposed to meet in October, but unfortunately XKO couldn't make that match happen for whatever reasons that they had, and it's okay. I mean, it's on a little bit of a bigger card and nationally televised, so I don't think me or him could complain about that. So it's going to be a good night.
Well, I know you've been wanting to be a part of LFA.
Yeah,
what stands out to you the most? We just said at the beginning of the hour that this has only been a year. This promotion's been around for a year. Of course, before with Mick Maynard, his legacy and that, but still, this is fairly new promotion overall.
It is. The thing that sticks out the most to me is how well it's run. You see what I'm saying? Like, backstage and the way that they treat the fighters and everybody like that. They accommodate the fighters really well, and of course it's televised, and they it's like clockwork. It's literally no complaints on my end from what I've seen.
And how do you feel about working with, Ed Soares? Every time you see him around, this guy has been big on the management side for years. Of course, Lyoto Machida and Anderson Silva, but then he ran RFA until it became LFA. So what do you think about working with him now?
I think it's going to be good. I've heard a lot of great things about Ed. You could just tell the way that the company's being ran. You see what I'm saying? With all the shows that they're having and everything that they're doing, it's extremely great. They're putting on shows almost every other weekend. You know what I mean? And not only just regular shows, big shows. People are tuning in, and they're pushing a lot of good product, a lot of good fighters, and you could just tell in the UFC. Some of the best fighters that are in the UFC on the roster are former Legacy or RFA, LFA fighters.
Now, LFA, of course, has been a big, I want to say almost a gateway into the UFC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we mentioned Sean O'Malley, who is now just signed by the UFC, and of course, your teammate Jeff Neal, Charles Bird, Rashad. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and I feel like they've done such a good job. Is that kind of what excites you the most too? Is that connection they have?
It excites me a lot because I know that the matchups, they're gonna get you prepared for the UFC. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those stepping stones. You see what I'm saying? To get you to the big show, to get you ready, to get your feet wet. Have you feeling the jitters and the butterflies of being on national television, being backstage and everything like that. Getting you ready for the big show is essentially what it is, and that's what I like the most about this, and I find so intriguing about fighting for LFA.
And of course, they have the Access TV deal, which is huge, and now they just released the televised card, and you're going to be opening up, correct?
Yeah,
You're
absolutely,
the
man.
first one they see.
Hey, everybody's in for a treat, Same thing with my XKO fights. Anytime I fight, just in general, whether I'm the opening or the closing show, I'm always going to put on a show, and I'm trying to steal the show. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a little tough because I have four more of my other teammates on there, and it's just a talent-rich card.
Now, do they approach you about, hey, you're good? This fight right here is going to be on the main card, the prelims. I mean, how does that work? Or is it just kind of luck of the draw?
I had no idea.
Yeah,
like not until they announced, not until they released the official card. The only thing that I knew that I was on the LFA card, but once I saw that I was on the televised portion, that I kicked things off, I was just ecstatic, man.
And do you think a lot of big thing is because both of you are undefeated? Do you think that storyline right there is what got you right away to that main card?
I mean, I believe so. And I know Chad's a pretty big draw. I'm a pretty good draw as well. And I know that they definitely wanted to kick the night off with fireworks, and they see two undefeated, hungry prospects on the main card, and kicking things off. They're going to go after it.
Now, what's I think interesting about this fight, other than both of you guys' records, I think the way, especially how dominant you have been in all your victories. Nobody's made it out the first round,
yes,
which is not an easy thing to do in this sport. Very few athletes. I think the one major star athlete was Ronda Rousey, who barely anybody made it out of the first round with her. Is that I think with 5 wins in a row, and the way they just changed titles with the welterweight title, is that a possibility, or maybe one more fight for the LFA welterweight?
I mean, honestly, to me, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whatever steps it's going to take for me to become an even better fighter. So, I mean, if I win this fight, I'm not going to necessarily call out for a title because, like I said, I'm still fairly new to the promotion. I don't want to, jump over anybody. But if I do finish my opponent in a dominant fashion, I'm going to hopefully expect another fight, either for LFA or another promotion. But I'm hoping LFA.
And the main event is interesting. It's a welterweight matchup.
Yeah,
you have Evan Cutts, who's been a long time, MMA veteran here in Texas, fought before with Legacy, and then, of course, in Bellator. And, he's in the mix. I mean, so that's a potential, fight for either one of you guys right there.
Absolutely. I know my teammate Sean Spencer fought Evan Cutts way back in the day. I haven't really seen much footage on Evan, just aside from knowing that he's a veteran and he's been around the MMA scene for a long time. But that's definitely an interesting matchup. I can't wait to watch it between him and his opponent.
What excites you the most about this particular matchup against Chad Box?
The thing that excites me the most is, he's he's ready to show up. He wants to show up, and that's the thing that excites me the most is whenever I have another opponent that's standing across the cage from me that's hungry. Just as my last opponent, he was extremely persistent. I know he wanted to step in June. But unfortunately, they gave the fight first to Andrew Sosa. Whenever I forgot the dude's name.
Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky.
Yeah.
That I was supposed to fight Rocky back in June. But then they gave the fight to Andrew Sosa, and they said that hey, Andrew Sosa's first. If he backs out, then we'll give you Josh Sturgill. And I really respected that a lot about Josh Sturgill. He really wanted to get in there and fight. And it's the same way that I look at Chad Box. Chad Box has been pretty persistent, and he wants to fight me. And I have a lot of respect for that, and I know that we're both going to go out there and put on a great show.
Where do you feel like you're going to capitalize the most in this fight?
Honestly, I'm not trying to be overconfident or anything like that. I just believe in my physical abilities, my natural abilities, my God-given talents, and I just feel my overall game with everything, with my stand-up, with my wrestling, with my ground game, just everything. I feel very confident.
And I know your ground game has been the hugest threat. We all know you definitely have tough striking, but that ground game, it's like it's almost inevitable.
I mean, the thing is that like I said. To me, the people that I do stand up with, the people that I spar every single day are some of the best guys in the world. I truly do tout my team as the best team in the world. Just the proof is in the pudding. You just see everything that we've accomplished so far, and we still have a lot more to accomplish. But as I said, the problem is that usually if I see a way to finish the fight, I'm going to take it, and lately my last 4 fights, it's been by submission. I just see a submission there and I'm like, all right, I'm going to take it. But I mean, same thing with a knockout. Whatever opportunity presents itself first, I'm going to draw that right away.
What I always find interesting, especially with first round finishes, I don't know what the stats are here, but a lot of them end by submission.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't first round knockouts, there's been plenty, but more consistently. And I said Ronda because, the armbar, she had the hands in that, but she went to the bread and butter, she saw the opening, and every time it would end that first round. I
remember Cowboy Cerrone for an extremely long time. Cowboy Cerrone has very good striking, and the thing is that he would catch people in the stand-up, stun them, rock them, and then they'd be on the ground and he'd submit them. You know what I mean? And I think he has an extremely diverse arsenal of weapons, and that's the way I look at myself as well. If this fight ends up just standing up, I'm going to show everybody what I can do.
Well, what I always feel, and I love striking, but I always think the more dominant is that quick submission, is that slick, because it's something that just catches them like that.
Absolutely. And there's no way out of it.
Yeah, you just know, like that guillotine, you got that strong guillotine. It's like, well,
there's no way out of it.
It's over. Same with an armbar. It's like, well, they either tap or they snap.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone wants to live to fight the next day. So.
Absolutely. And that's the same way that I look at it. I look at my ground game. I have so many weapons, so many different submissions, so many ways to finish a fight, and just same thing with my striking. I have knockout ability in my hands. I have knockout ability in my elbows, my knees, my kicks, everything. I train the way that I fight, and I want to be just a threat everywhere, a very dangerous threat everywhere.
Is there anything different about this training camp at all that you're implementing? Anything new?
Honestly, nothing really. Just staying sneaky, staying strong, blowing out cardio, everything like that. I'm approaching this the same way I approach every single fight, and that's just to be as dangerous as possible. That's about it.
And do you feel like this has definitely been the most active you've been in
It has, and I'm extremely happy about it. I wanted to fight back in October, as I said. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. My target when I started the beginning of the year of 2017, I told myself I want to at least get 5 fights. Wow. So I've got 3 so far. I'm going to have to settle for 4, but that's okay. You know what I mean? That's
4 still pretty.
4 still pretty good, But next year, leading into next year, I definitely want to be as active, if not even more active than I was in 2017.
And they give you pretty much free reign to go between LFA and XKO and other promotions.
They're very, very good. That's what I'm very happy about.
And you feel that's the best way to stay pretty active?
It is.
Because I know LFA doesn't come here too often, although this is their 3rd card here in Dallas. Do you see a lot more Texas fighters traveling with them a little bit more?
You see it. I know Clayton Mai. He fought on the Houston when they were in Houston. It just depends. Like I said, I mean, I want to see them do more shows in Dallas just because of the kind of crowd that they draw. It's big. You know, you've been there. You've seen what they can draw at the Bomb Factory, and it's amazing. You know what I mean? And there's a big MMA community here in Dallas. So anytime that they come here, it's always a sellout show.
Well, Dallas is such a big sports market to begin with. So I think it's huge for LFA to be here in Dallas. And I think, like you said, there is a big MMA community. I would love to see more MMA promotions here. I mean, really, right now, I mean, LFA is kind of more a national, although it's Texas-based, it's national, where really XKO is that main DFW promotion.
I would like to see XKO. I could definitely see XKO probably doing a show a month or a show, if not every 2 months. Just because they generate the revenue, they can definitely pull off those numbers. Or if not, have probably another show rival it or something like that. My biggest thing is that it's lately I haven't seen any other promotions aside from XKO in North Texas.
It's been tough. I've been, involved around covering the sport since 2007, and there's been some smaller shows that have appeared and gone, but it's tough. And at one time, even there was HD Net Fights, which was big with Mark Cuban and that course went away, and there was Art of War, which was around. I mean, I think, but then that's a different time. Where the sport is now, I think there will be more of a need because there are more people now with it on, especially the UFC being on Fox and everything. There's so much MMA now, compared to then, where there's very few promotions like.
And that's what I want to see. I'm just like you. Aside from being a fighter, I'm a big fan of the sport. I love the sport, and I definitely want to see all the young talent that's coming up, and there's a lot of young talent in our gym as well, and just in the North Texas area, you see Elijah Johns, you see Fernie Garcia, all of these other guys that are up and coming, and it just it's kind of unfortunate because you never want to have young talent inactive. You know what I mean? You definitely want to have your young talented fighters fighting and going out there and showing what they got, what they're capable of.
And just speaking about your teammates, this whole card is stacked.
Yeah, it is.
There's 4 other guys, right, besides yourself on the card.
Extremely talent rich. So I encourage everybody in the DFW area, even surrounding areas, come through, support your local MMA scene. This is going to be an extremely talent-filled card. You have myself, you have Damon Jackson, Miles John, Steven Peterson, and Alonzo Menafield. He's a 205-pound light heavyweight, and the guy has just dynamite in his hands. That dude it's one shot from that guy and it's over. I don't think that there's no follow-up needed from that guy.
And do you feel like you're kind of getting that same buzz and feeling from like the July card where there were 6 guys on the card?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely been feeling it in the room. The intensity has been insanely high. Just the work ethic from every single body, even the people that aren't fighting, on this card, just our teammates that are really like right now they have no fights lined up. Their intensity is extremely high, their motivation, and we feed off of that, and we get an extremely good training, extremely hard training. And
what always excites me, especially with this team, is during every fighter's walkout, you guys are out there supporting. It's like a huge entourage. Some fighters you see maybe 1 or 2 or 3 guys. I mean, this is like a whole line, like a body of entourage.
We grind together. We're in the room, and we're extremely invested in one another. The cohesion that we have is just insane. The bond that we have amongst each other is insane, and I'm extremely proud and very happy to be a part of that. There's nothing else that I want more than to be a part of my team for this MMA. It's insane. There's a brotherhood there. Everybody cares about each other, and even if we have 10 guys on one card or we have 1 guy on one card, we all bond together. We all pitch in, and we all help each other all the time.
Now, what's it like backstage before a fight with all the teammates? What is the atmosphere like?
It's believe it or not, it's actually an extremely calm atmosphere. It's just calm, and we know that we've all put in the hard work and we've all done what we had to do, and the next step is just go out there and implement the game plan. And that's about it. I mean, it's a very calm atmosphere.
How do you like to get loose before a fight? I mean, are you very like sit back? Are you very more in the zone? Do you have a kind of a ritual that you do?
Just usually when I first get to the venue, I like to feel out the cage first, like to step in there while nobody's in there, just get a feel for the cage, move around in the cage. And then once I get backstage, I try and get a nap in. You know, I feel I get kind of lazy. You know, I just take a nap, put my headphones in, listen to music, and then, you know, I'll wait about 20 minutes until I'm called out, and I'll start getting very warmed up.
And do you feel like now that you're going into your 5th fight that you're really comfortable with this? You're really, obviously there's always nerves between any competition, but there's a way where you can control that nerves. Like, okay, I'm familiar with this.
To be honest, I want to say my fight back in June when I fought Andrew Sosa, I was very calm. You know, I started to get into that realm where I was like, you know, I feel very comfortable doing this. My last fight, actually, it was pretty hard. Backstage, I actually threw up 4 times.
Wow.
I had food poisoning that day.
Oh, wow.
It was insane. So like I couldn't for like, I want to say 5 or 6 days after that fight, I couldn't enjoy any kind of food. You know what I mean? Like I would just throw everything up. It was terrible. But yeah, that was the biggest thing. I walked into the fight, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a pretty tough night. But I was like, whatever happens, I'm gonna make sure I pull through. You know, I'm gonna find a way to win. You know, and I did find a way to win in 24 seconds, thankfully, and it was very good. But like I said, it was pretty tough, man. I was backstage, I threw up like 4 times, and I was like, man, what's going on? I was like, I can't believe I got food poisoning.
I would have won in 24 seconds. I was afraid otherwise everyone's getting a different kind of show. You're gonna mount the guy, and it's like, I am so sorry, I'm throwing up. Be the one.
It could have happened, man.
Has that ever happened? Someone vomit on someone during a fight? Like
I've seen people vomit and like.
Yeah, I've seen it in wrestling. People just throw up. Like this guy one time ate eggs. I'm like, well, that's where you went wrong beforehand. And just right before it's just hurled everywhere. But I cannot imagine in a fight.
No, that would be bad.
I mean, I've seen other bodily function. Darren.
I've seen that.
But I mean, vomit is where because that's that chain reaction. You see that I'm one of those. I see it. I'm going to start throwing, and then it's like one of those that Family Guy scene that where they're all throwing up. I mean, it would not be good. But already, you know, I think I've said this a lot about the team is just that calm and composure.
Yeah.
You know, and does that a lot just come from that training or come from Coach Safe?
It comes from the training, and it also comes from Coach Safe. As soon as we get backstage, the first thing that Coach Safe tells us to do is just zone everything out, zone everybody out, and you know, get in your realm of happiness, get in your realm of calm, and get ready. You know, that's the biggest thing. I mean, the hardest part, I truly believe, is the training camp. That's the hardest part, is just the training camp, the nights of just grinding, doing your technical training, doing your boxing, doing your cardio, doing just everything that you do for a training camp. And that's the hardest part. The funnest part is once you make the weight, you get to eat, and then go into the venue Saturday or Friday night and going and putting in the work, just punching the clock, getting in there and getting your check.
And is there a way that you like to kind of channel that nerves a little bit? Because, you know, that's the thing. Like, it's obviously a fight. It's obviously a big competition. But nerves can also, too much nerves, like anything, can hinder a performance.
Absolutely. One of my biggest things that I like to do, like I said, I just listen to music and I just relax, close my eyes a little bit, take a nap. And another thing that gets me really calm is when I see my coach, when I see my teammates, my cornermen, and just everybody in my corner. I start to get calm, and I'm like, hey, this is no big deal. I've been here before, and this is what I do, you know?
And do you have a little bit of a prediction for this fight? What you think you're going to end it?
I am going to end it. You know, I look into every single fight that I go from my past and into my future and into this present fight. I always go in with the intentions of finishing a fight. I never ever want to let a fight go to the judges. And if a fight does go to the judges, I'm going to dominate my opponent. And I just have that mindset. It's not a matter of being cocky or anything. It's just I train the way I fight, and I'm just there. I'm going in there for the kill.
Also, most people, I don't think anybody wants to have that 3-round battle. I mean, in the long run, if you can get in, get out, I mean, that's the best.
Like I said, I predict this fight either ending by submission or knockout. I don't see any other prediction. And it's going to be me, you know, delivering that knockout or submission. And I see no other way out.
And what I think is kind of interesting about, you know, submission victories compared to knockout victories, and this comes from Royce Gracie's day, is, you know, you're gonna get that victory, but your opponent's walking away too.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And even though this is a fight, at the same time, nobody wants to see someone really out cold.
No,
it's just the name of it and
yes.
hurt. But a submission, you get it quick. It's just as dominant, and at the end of the day, they're gonna.
No, absolutely. And like I said, I'm not one of those fighters that I want to inflict more damage that needs to be done during the fight. That's a given. The damages, I'm gonna have to inflict damage on my opponent, and whatever happens. But I would never hit an opponent after the bell or do anything dirty like that. Do any kind of eye gouging or fish hooks or whatever they call. And I would never do that. Like I said, I'm a very clean fighter. I fight from bell to bell or until the referee pulls me off of my opponent.
Do you ever keep in touch with any past opponents, or do you run into them?
Honestly, as of lately, I haven't. I know that when I was an amateur, I ran into my last amateur fight. My last amateur opponent, I ran into him at Europa, actually, back in 2014. But aside from that, no, I haven't ran into any of my past opponents.
Because it seems like definitely a very tight-knit community, or everyone knows everyone. Everyone's fighting everybody.
I've seen people that I fought on the same card with from other teams. I've seen them, and I keep in touch with them as well sometimes. But as far as my past opponents, no, sir, I haven't seen them.
I actually one time had two friends fight each other.
Oh wow!
So that was interesting. So you really could not cheer for one. It's like,
no.
Who did you know longer?
That's like the kind of fight that you just don't show up to the venue, or if you do show up to the venue, you don't clap. You just
and see, I was covering that event too, so I guess it was kind of good because you got to be neutral. Which is not always the easiest, and especially when a bunch of people. But when you have two people fighting, you're like,
yes. It's definitely definitely grind.
As long as nobody ends up severely injured, then
absolutely
it is competition. It is the way, and that's the world of sports. You see in other sports, you've seen siblings in football and hockey versus each other. The one thing I always thought was interesting, there was two brothers that played against each other in the Stanley Cup Finals, and the mom, after I think it was when the Colorado Avalanche won, they panned to the mom in the stands, and she's just like, I don't know if I should cheer. I don't know what I should do.
That's kind of
one of my son won, and then the other one
that's messed up. They put
lost.
Her on the spot. They put her on the spot. But I mean, the way that I look at it is a prime example is. Was it this past weekend? The UFC
the 217
card where Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw fought each other. That was an amazing fight.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see a rematch down the road, 100%. But like I said, once TJ scored the knockout, you could see after they bickered amongst each other, they hugged each other.
Yeah.
And that's what the sport is all about, putting all your hatred, all your animosity to the side after the fight. Once the fight's done, the fight's done. There's nothing else to do. And if you feel that the fight ended too soon, or if you feel that it was a bad stoppage, you can always request, a rematch. So that's the best part about it.
And there was so much history between them too. I mean, they were friends at one time, and obviously this grudge, but even before that, when Cody announced that he was engaged, TJ's like, with all things considered, congratulations. So, I mean, you're never going to forget that camaraderie you have. No. Even if you move on from gym to gym and that, there's still going to be that respect.
That's what I truly love about this sport. And I think that's something that's never going to go away. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you realize that another man has the same goals, the same ambitions as you, and you're stepping in the cage with him, and you know that once those 15 or 25 minutes are up, or however long the fight lasts, that it's going to be, it's not going to be the animosity that you guys had leading into the fight. It's going to be a lot of love and a lot of friendship after the fight.
Man, was that a crazy card, though?
That was a very crazy card. Insanely.
Vegas had to be going crazy on the odds, especially between Rose and Joanna. I mean,
some people won a lot of money and some people lost a lot of money.
Well, the thing about that is, especially going back to Rose and Joanna. Obviously, Rose's ground game is great.
Yes.
I thought she was going to take her back, I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. But I mean, Joanna's been just so technical and dominant, and honestly, where I saw her the most in trouble was that second fight with Claudia. But I mean, I was like, okay, well, she weathered that storm. I mean, I think she can weather most, but Rose
was just like, nope, I'm not going to let you weather anything, and she just went in there and did the thing.
But she took it good, though. I mean, in the end, Joanna has been pretty respectful, and she's like, I'll be back.
She's a real champion, you know, like I said, and she has a championship mindset. So I think she's going to definitely come back and persevere through any tough times, anything like that. And that's the most important thing, you know. The wins and losses are common in the sport, especially losses. The way that you react to a loss, the way that you come back from a loss is what truly defines you. You know what I mean? On any given night, any champion, anybody can lose a fight. It's just the way that you come back from that.
Well, I think we saw that with Conor after Nate Diaz. He took that very well in the sense, very respectful. And then what did he do? He came back, he challenged him, won. And, he didn't make any excuses or anything. Or even against Floyd Mayweather, he just said, I got tired.
Yeah.
He's like, I got tired. I wish it would have gone longer. Of course he wishes it would have gone longer. He has that fighting spirit, But
the thing is like you said, he came back from that, beat Nate Diaz, and then won another world title when he defeated Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah,
and like I said, the guy eats pressure. You know what I mean? And that's truly what makes a champion. No matter what anybody says about Conor, the guy went in there and did the damn thing for everything. You know what I mean? Winning 2 world titles, boxing, the greatest boxer of all time, I think, of this generation.
Yeah.
And making his money, leaving his mark. The guy left a mark that will never be erased.
Well, the thing is, and of course, I think everyone's talking about this now because of obviously Ronda twice, and it's just I think you want to see your champion or these figures. You kind of want to see that humble side. Like we know what they're like when they win. We know like what they're winning, but what are they like when they lose? How do they do that? What's their character like? Donna Cruz had the best post-fight. Ariel Helwani always hangs up a picture of it. He went straight to that microphone after Cody lost, and he answered questions like, I got no excuses. He was better than me, He's
an extremely humble guy, and, I look up a lot to that. Like I said in the past, it's not my MO. I'm not a real talker, I leave a lot of my talking in the cage, and like I said, I have a lot of respect for every single opponent that I face, because they're stepping in there with me, and we both have the same goals and ambitions, and we're going in there and we're clashing for 15 minutes, 25 minutes, or however long the match is.
Well, what I think about talking is, like, the difference about Conor is he's a master at it because, he's generally funny.
Yes.
So it comes across great. Same with Chael Sonnen. But if you don't have that sense of humor or wit or timing, it is not good. And I've seen so many press conferences where it's bad, and it's like, don't do it. Like, it will, but it sells. Yeah, but you don't know how to do it. That's not what you should be doing.
Like I said, it's all about how you are, what kind of character you have. It's like you never want to force something that's not. You know what I mean? So a lot of guys nowadays, they're trying to follow in the footsteps of Conor McGregor, in the footsteps of Chael Sonnen, and the great trash talkers of our time. And it just doesn't suit them. You see what I'm saying? It just does not suit them. It's kind of cringy. It's weird. It's awkward when they come across as that. And instead of just focusing on what makes them, they try and emulate somebody else's style. And I think that's the problem now that we're having in MMA, is that everybody's trying to be a talker and not everybody's trying to be a doer and a hard worker.
Yeah, like George St. Pierre, Michael did most of all the hype, verbal, and GSP, what did he do? He came back. He came back strong.
4-year layoff.
Yeah, 4-year layoff. Had a little bit of adversity in that fight, but he's never been a talker. Just his athleticism and honestly his humbleness, the nice guy, as the nice guy to finish first, to beat that statement, nice guy. And I think people can be drawn to that. My favorite fighter of all time is Forrest Griffin, and the reason why it's not because he was the most dominant fighter, because his humor and his kind of self-mock, and he didn't take himself seriously in that, and he was that everyday guy.
Yeah.
But he put in so much hard work, had great cardio, and it paid off. He won a world title, but he didn't talk trash.
No.
You never disrespected an opponent, even when Tito was kind of going after him. He was more like he would pick at himself first, which is actually what a lot of comedians would do too.
He's a very funny guy.
But what do comedians do? They go on stage and then they blow it out of the water.
Yeah, they do. And I met Forrest Griffin actually at the
awesome.
At the UFC PI. Whenever I went with Charles, I went with Kennedy, and even Ryan Spann. We all went out there, and he gives you the tour. And the craziest thing to me that stuck out was the memory of this guy.
Yeah.
Like, how much stuff he remembers. He remembered Rashad, his fight here in Dallas, and that was late July, the month of July that I went over there. He remembers his fight back from May. Remembered Charles, remember Kennedy, all these people just like, because I know that Charles had to, I think 3 times he went to Vegas that they brought him out there for the Contender Series just to do media and everything like that. And just how humble Forrest Griffin is and just how much stuff he knows and how big of a fan he is, aside from being a legend.
Yeah.
How big of a fan he is of the sport is extremely admirable. I really respect the guy.
So he's got one of those memories where he could just memorize the name of that,
Oh,
and that's always a great, that's a great figure to have in this sport, and especially for guys coming up and that. And if it wasn't for Forrest Griffin, the sport wouldn't be here today.
No.
I mean, the UFC was really like, please let this fight be awesome,
And it was.
It was awesome. I mean, even though Diego is still technically the first Ultimate Fighter winner, but his was so dominant that. It's like, okay, he beat the little guy. But the Forrest and Stephan Bonner fight was
MMA
just
on the map.
legendary.
It was a legendary fight, and it will always be remembered. And as I said, just meeting Forrest Griffin, I was like, wow, he's a very humble guy, very nice guy. Nothing but respect for him.
Do you have a favorite fighter that you looked up to?
It's a little tough. In boxing, Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, my 2 favorites, and just their personalities are what strike me the most. Aside from what they did in and outside of the boxing ring, but Sugar Ray Leonard, a bunch of other boxers, I really admire and I really respect. But as far as my 1 favorite, it's kind of hard. It's definitely between Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. In MMA. It's kind of hard, man, to be honest with you. There's so many good fighters, a lot of great fighters. To be honest, I think my favorite fighter that I could watch all the time, Demetrius Johnson, hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down.
And him and TJ should definitely happen next.
Yes, it definitely should happen next. But as far as my favorite fighter, Demetrius Johnson, he's the full embodiment of what I feel is a perfect mixed martial artist inside and outside of the cage.
Have you gotten a chance to meet him? Did you get to?
Yeah, I would love to meet him.
He seems like the nicest guy too. Like
Play video games
he
with
loves his Modelo beer.
Get his gamer tag. Play some video games
Oh
with
yeah.
him.
He's always at one point. I mean, I don't know if he's still sponsored by Xbox. I mean, that's crazy.
should
I've
be.
never seen somebody ever in the past sponsored by a video game.
No.
That's the luckiest guy in the world. Like
is.
he had nothing but it was just Xbox. There was no other sponsor. But that's all you need. If you're sponsored by Xbox, PlayStation, you're legit.
You are legit. And I mean, who's more legit than Demetrius Johnson? I mean, the guy never gets tired.
Yeah.
The guy is insane. Like when he fights, he's an amazing fighter, man. He's an amazing fighter.
And another guy that, he gets it because he doesn't talk or have that relevant, but I don't think he needs to. I think when more people get a little more educated on this sport, because honestly, him and TJ aren't going to go back and forth verbal because TJ's not a talker, really. He's not really a talker. He just kind of had to counteract this kind of whole grudge thing.
He did, and I mean, he did what really anybody would do. I mean, there's only so much that a person could take. You know what I mean? So the way that TJ reacted to that was perfect. You know what I mean?
But I think that Ray Borg made a lot of people fans. That armbar, whatever, that suplex. I tweeted that night. I was like, "This looks like something out of Tekken. Like this is a video game. Like
the guy is literally a video game. The stuff that he does in the cage is like stuff that you do like on like Street Fighter, Tekken, and stuff like that. The kind of stuff that he pulls off is just surreal.
Now going back to that New York card, I know that's probably a goal of yours being originally being in Madison.
I would love
Square Garden.
I would love to.
What is? Have you heard any? What the scene is like now that the UFC's been there twice?
It's very big. Now I can tell. I went back a couple months ago. I went back actually in August, and it's just insane. Like throughout last year, whenever it got legalized, you just started to see the exponential growth over there in New York. And there's a lot of talent out there as well. It's a very historical boxing place, so you're going to have a lot of guys with great stand-up. And it's the East Coast, man. You got a lot of good wrestlers coming out of there, Pennsylvania, New York, all that whole area over there. So I expect the talent's there, like I said, with Chris Weidman, John Jones. You have a lot of guys that are from the East Coast that are such dominant fighters, and it would be, a dream of mine. I think my biggest dream, believe it or not, is if they did a fight at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx.
That would be
that would be the best. That would be the best. But I don't know if that's feasible, or if they could pull something like that
I
off.
think his big thing, of course, I think Max Holloway would go crazy if it went there before Hawaii because of the outdoor stadium. That's their big. That's the big thing is like because I know in Hawaii they only have an outdoor stadium,
Really.
and the whole thing with weather and that. And see, I know the Professional Fighter League did one outside, and it was raining. I mean, it didn't get and it was. I think part of it was going in the cage. I think that's the big thing is with the open stadium. Although we did see that in Australia with Jeff Horton and Manny Pacquiao. But I mean, beautiful weather afternoon. I think if it was somewhat outside, I mean, they would have to plan it very well. I think they're more like they like that arena feel.
Imagine if they could get a cover or something like that. Like do the Houston Texans have something like that where the dome closes? Or
they can open it or anything like that.
I don't know if the New York Yankees would be able to.
A lot of the stadiums are starting to. The new Ranger Stadium is going to be like that. The whole close, which honestly for baseball is a big deal because of the rain delays are so bad. Snow delays, rain delays. Football's like they'll play in it a lot of times, unless if it's lightning, and then
they can't.
And then that's which makes sense. But we've seen so many delays in baseball. The World Series last year was delayed because of weather, rain.
And like I said, that would be my biggest dream. A lot of people are like, Madison Square Garden. I would love to fight in Madison Square Garden. Don't get me wrong. I would love to fight on any like Southern New York, like Long Island, any of those cards. But I feel like the thing that would really hit home and really just make me extremely happy and ecstatic is to be able to fight in the Bronx. There's not many venues in the Bronx, unfortunately, besides Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And that's it. That would be a dream come true for me.
Did you grow up going to the games a lot?
I only went to a few games, but I'm a Yankees fan, man. I'm a Yankees fan. I might not follow baseball crazy a lot, but no matter what, that's my team. That's who I go for. I love the Yankees, man.
Are you all New York teams or
not necessarily? I think the Yankees are my only team that I like from New York. To be honest with you, I don't really like the New York Giants or the Jets and. New York Knicks. I don't really like the Knicks either.
I don't know how many Giants fans there are left right after this season.
No, not many.
I mean, it hasn't been too good there.
Been a rough
right now. It's been a rough season, but I mean, the Yankees do have the loyal, and then even Rangers fans.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just look at the history of the New York Yankees and everything that they've accomplished. They're a winning team, such as the Patriots, and the list goes on. But it's just, man, that's home for me. You know what I mean? That's my team right there.
Now, you were talking about going into the next year, how active you would be. Do you set by each year like short-term goals, long-term goals?
Yes.
Do you like to think even ahead? I know you don't want to
Absolutely.
think past this fight. Nobody wants to, but we are coming upon the new year, and
we are absolutely. And like I said, every single fight, every single fighter that I go up against is a threat. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter to me. I could fight somebody that's 100-0. I could fight somebody that's 0-100. And I'm going to treat that opponent the same way I'm going to treat the opponent that's 100-0. Every single person is a threat in my eyes. Every single person possesses, capabilities, very dangerous capabilities. Anytime somebody steps into the cage, they always run the risk of winning. What the percentage is varies every single time you fight. But as I said, I take Chad Box with the same. He possesses the same threat as my guy, the first guy that I fought, the very first guy, my amateur circuit, and like I said, it always goes the same way. But with that being said, I do set long-term goals, such as by next year, I definitely do want to fight for the contender. And then, work my way into the UFC. I definitely want to do that.
And that seems to be the big thing right now. I mean, you're not even talking about the Ultimate Fighter anymore. I mean, the contender seems to be where a lot of people want to be.
They do. It's good money. It's good exposure. And you perform literally right in front of Dana White, Sean Shelby, and Mick Maynard. So you have the UFC matchmakers right there that you're performing in. And it's not a big crowd. When I tell you, it's like nothing you've ever seen. It's like the atmosphere in there is insane. Like the tension is insane. Like you go in there and you're like, wow. Like I when I was cornering the guys, I was like, man, this is insane. And it was a good experience for me to see, for me to feel how it is. But like I said, it's just something. It's just crazy. There's not many fans there. You don't have no walkout music. You have nothing. You just literally walk out when they tell you to walk out. You see Dana White the UFC matchmakers right there, standing by the table. You got your judges, you got your cornermen, you have some other UFC fighters that are there. I remember when I was there, I saw Francis Ngannou, Donald Cerrone, John Dotson, and just a bunch of UFC alumni, and it's like quiet.
Yeah.
Like you'll hear claps and like cheering, but it's not as loud as a regular venue is. But like I said, it's just it's a real deal.
Well, it's, and of course it's in that Ultimate Fighting gym. Of course, you don't have to spend the 12 weeks or 6 weeks of that and all that drama.
I like it a lot more. And the Ultimate Fighter, it has its place in history. But as of right now, do I think that it should be phased out? Yes. To be completely honest with you, you know what I mean? That's a little bit too drawn out. And now you have a show, the Contender Series, where you're bringing talent so far nationwide. I haven't really seen on the global scale yet. I don't know how many Brazilian fighters or how many fighters that they brought from outside of the continental United States. But once they start doing that, and you have these guys doing their training camps with their camps, they're going to be highly motivated to go in there, and they got their time to cut the weight. And it's not like the Ultimate Fighter where they fight every single week. You know what I mean? So you're going to get the best fights possible on that show.
And wouldn't surprise me, they did this with the Ultimate Fighter, if they expand though internationally.
Yeah, they should.
Like,
they definitely
do
should.
the Contender in Brazil, start off in Brazil, then South America, then go over or Europe.
Yeah, that would definitely be an option. That would definitely be a route that they could take. But as I've said, the Contender Series has brought out some amazing talent, and this year we definitely want to build off with the team or with Fortis MMA going forward and try and get as many guys as we can on the Contender, and just show the United States and the whole world who our team is.
Well, speaking of overseas, speaking of your team, Rashad is leaving overseas right now. It's a long flight to Australia.
Wish him safe travels, and I know he's going to do great.
Well, what's your thought about his fight there in Australia?
I think he's going to knock his guy out. Like I said, I think just seeing Rashad this training camp and the improvements that he's made, it's unbelievable. It's amazing how the guy looks when he's training. And I know he's going to do the same thing when he gets out there. He's going to implement his game plan, and he's going to win the $50,000 bonus. He's going to have his show money, win money, and his $50,000 bonus.
Now, the thing about his fight, and we had him on a couple weeks ago. I mean, that was one of those crazy fights. Still, in my opinion, one of the top fights of the year in the UFC, maybe even MMA, because just being there in that energy, everyone on the seat. It's like it's one of those. In my opinion, the result's one thing, but there's really not a loser in that when the whole crowd, because there's people who win and they're like, that was a boring decision or whatever.
No, not that fight. And Rashad is never that way, and there's the guys at the gym, we all have that same mindset. It's go in there, kill or be killed, and we're going to do our thing. Once we go in there, we're going to always do our thing. We're always going to come at 100%, and we're always going to give 120.
And going back to, going to the gym as a whole, it's growing a lot. Do you think it's only about a year, 2 years, 3 years until, they're like, here's America Top Team, here's Fortis MMA?
Yeah, I definitely, honestly, I could see that within the coming year, barring any injuries, barring anything, God forbid, knock on wood. Anything like that, I definitely see our team up there. I already see our team up there, with just the amount of talent that we have. Just look at the guys that we have. I mean, Jeff Neal, Charles Bird, Kennedy, Rashad. Every single one of these guys possesses the capabilities of world champion, of a contender, of a world champion. And it's just a matter of time until they get that stage to perform on it. You know what I'm saying? Look at Kennedy. Man, he was on the Contender Series with only 3 fights.
That's crazy. 3
fights. And Kennedy started fighting 2 years ago.
And he beat a guy that was on the Ultimate Fighter, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Yes. An extremely seasoned veteran. And he went in there, he outstruck him, and he had a way better gas tank than the guy. He overcame adversity in the first round and just took the fight from him.
And he's only, how old is Kennedy?
25.
25, so I mean, it's still pretty
young. And
still
it's
young.
a light heavyweight division, you know what I mean? So that's definitely something big, And like I said, I feed off of that. All of the teammates, we all feed off of each other's victories. We all feed off of what one another does.
And do you think a lot of, and I'm saying gym success in this sense of like, I mentioned American Top, it comes with how many people that they put in the bigger promotions a lot of times?
It comes... It's a lot of variables. You see what I'm saying? It's who your coach is, And we have an amazing coach. We have a great, great coach who is fully invested in all of us, who gives his undivided attention. You know, the guy is always at the gym. The guy is always giving above and beyond, you know, to every single one of us. And it starts off with the leadership. You see what I'm saying? We have an amazing leadership. We have an amazing leader in Coach Safe. And just the cohesion that everybody brings together, the bonds that we created at that gym, and just the brotherhood that we've established, like I said, is something that keeps pushing us forward. And that's what's making us a great gym. You know, you go into a lot of different gyms, and you'll realize that they'll have very good fighters. But the thing is that those fighters, they'll come to them good. You see what I'm saying? Coach Safe, he's built us up from the ground up, right? And with that being said, the greatest part about our gym is that there's always going to be the fighters that are going to be helping one another. You see what I'm saying? It's not like we have to fly somebody out. The fighters are always going to be there helping one another for their camp. Just as my camp was done, me and Charles, we were helping each other for our upcoming fights. Jeff was done with his fight on the Contender Series. Jeff came, helped us the week after his fight. Same thing with Damon, same thing with Steven Peterson. These guys are always in the gym. You know what I mean? There's never a time that I do not see them not in the gym.
And I'm ready to see Charles and Jeff's debuts
I can't
in the UFC. So 2018 needs to get here. There's a lot of excitement.
Yes, there's a lot of excitement. Keep your eye out for Alonzo Menafield as well. He won his contender fight.
Yes, he did. And he only had like 3 fights, right? 3 or 4 fights? 4 fights.
Yes,
4 fights. So
yes,
that's pretty soon, you know.
Very, very soon.
Well, one thing is, you know, even with you, going in this, you get the W 5-0. I mean, they're happy guys signed to the UFC.
Absolutely.
Chris Weidman was 4-0 when he was signed to
Cain Velasquez was 2-0.
2-0. It's crazy. And I know, you know, when you have those dominant performances, like who's left to fight a lot of times. And it's all about statement and that. And, you know, Dana wants exciting fighters in the mix. And,
if like I said, you know, I do see myself in the UFC, and that's a big goal of mine. That's where I do see myself. But as I said, I mean, I'm not rushing anything. Whatever happens, happens. You see what I'm saying? It could happen after I beat Chad Box December 8th. It could happen 5 more fights down the road. I could be 10-0 and get signed. The thing is that once I get in the UFC, I want to stay in there. I want to make my money, and I want to make a run for the title. That's what I want to do.
Well, it sounds like a good plan.
It is a very good plan.
And time flies by so fast.
It does. This year, I swear, this year flew by, and I hadn't fought in 2 years before this.
Well, we were saying, like, it's almost the 1 year anniversary of LFA in January, and
1 year opening of our gym.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's crazy. It is crazy. And what we've accomplished so far is just, it's
I'm going to be 30 in February, so it's crazy.
Oh, man. No, you're still young. Stop. You're still young.
But no, it is crazy. But it's good to be an MMA, you know, involved with the sport, a fan of the sport.
Yes, sir.
So much, and especially here in Dallas, because I just remember where there was only so few gyms and really few promotions or entrants at all, and now it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. And it's cool seeing, you know, even at the young age, everyone getting involved in jiu-jitsu. I did my first, jiu-jitsu tournament a couple weekends ago, and just seeing the young ages all the way up, like that's, you know, everyone's noticing, like, this is a great art.
Man. It's a thing of beauty.
And the discipline of martial arts, and you mentioned the respect, and that's what martial arts instills you.
It does. Absolutely.
Is that respect. So
absolutely it does.
Well, we got to wrap up here, but anything you would like to say to your friends, your family?
I want to wish, you know, first and foremost, Rashad Coulter, he's going to battle next week, as well as Abdul Kareem. He's fighting in Dubai on Brave. I don't know which Brave card he's fighting exactly. I want to wish those two the best of luck. I know they're going to go out there and they're going to kill it. They're going to do their thing. And just to all the fight fans, everybody at home in the DFW area, surrounding areas, you know, definitely tune in. If you can't make it to the venue, Legacy Fighting Alliance 28, come watch me, come watch my 4 other teammates do work, and go 5-0 that night.
Well, Ramiz, we want to thank you. And
man, it's my pleasure. Always my pleasure, guys.
Well, this is another episode of MMA On Air. Tune in to next Friday night. Also, check out Fight Fit Lifestyle, always the supporter of the show. And of course, like he said, LFA 28 live at Bomb Factory December 8th.